when are altcoins going to start performing? And to answer that question, we need to take a look at Bitcoin, because as you guys know, or maybe you don't know, Bitcoin controls how the entire market moves. So we're going to dive right into here, and I'm going to answer that question, and you might be surprised with the findings. So right now, Bitcoin is currently sitting at 61,700, and we took out the liquidity down here, and that is potentially a good sign because there was a lot of stops sitting down here that the market wanted to grab if we are potentially going to move towards the upside. Now, the upside is a lower probability scenario at this stage of the market. As soon as we enter this window right here, you can see the two yellow lines right here. That is the window of highest chance of bottoming. And currently, we are just a few days out. You can see, and by a few days, I mean 3 months. We are currently 3 months out from that window. And as every day passes, we get closer and closer. So now is certainly not the time to quit crypto. But naturally, people would quit crypto because it's getting harder to stay in here with the prices continuously declining. Now, on the bearish side, we could potentially see Bitcoin move towards the lower level of $50,000 as it approaches this window. That is one scenario. The other scenario we have for Bitcoin is the more bullish one for alts, which is we start moving towards the upside and actually crack above this resistance, which would be very bullish for altcoins. And then the next third scenario, the very boring one, would be we simply range down here for the next few months until we possibly come and find a bottom here and begin our journey towards the next cycle, towards the upside. Those are the three scenarios currently on the table. And I'm going to show you why it's most likely going to be the middle scenario based on what I'm seeing on the other charts. Now, the other charts, let's take a look at USDT, because this paints a very clear picture of what's going on with the altcoins, because this also tells us the potential of Bitcoin bottoming here. So we can see currently USDT is at all-time highs almost. You can see last time we were here was in 2022, and we haven't passed this area. So USDT going any higher would create an all-time high, and potentially what we could see here is a head fake towards the upside as price shoots towards the upside, and then we begin ranging back down. As you guys can see right now, we are somewhat in a range. It's too early to call it a range until this begins breaking down, and the first signs of breakdown would be to see this trend line collapse. So potentially we have some room for a Bitcoin correction to the upside, which kind of goes in line with the potential bullish scenario. But if USDT goes towards the downside and moves up again, then we're going to break that BTC low once more, because USDT dominance and Bitcoin do track each other almost 1-to-1. So what we do want to see out of USDT, which also hints at altcoins, if this does begin to break down and we get a move where we head towards the trend line, move up, and then break down, that would be incredibly bullish for altcoins to get some kind of a rally. And given that we are coinciding with the potential bottom on Bitcoin, you guys can see that would give altcoins an incredible opportunity to finally bottom. And we have a lot of different metas to pay attention to in the altcoin space. We've got AI, we've got TCG meta, which was just born. If you guys don't know what that is the Pokemon meta that is going here with real world assets, and cards is currently the leader for that, and I'll get into that later. But you can see many opportunities spawning in the crypto markets, although it doesn't really look like it on some of these charts, because some of them are not going to make it as they attempt to take competition away from cards or just simply join the competition. You have many different competitors trying to get a piece of the pie. And the reason this is good is because the trenches are healthy in terms of innovation, but they are unhealthy when it comes to liquidity and risk appetite. So that is to say, don't fade altcoins right now just because they look terrible, because they have a lot of potential, especially when we enter this window later in the year. We only have 30 days before things potentially begin to turn up. And after the summer, the chances increase heavily that we are going to find that bottom we're looking for altcoins to start looking much more appealing. Now, the other chart I want to take a look at here is Total 3. And Total 3, you can see, attempted to break the all-time high, but just couldn't stick the landing. Technically, it did break the all-time high. You can see this and this. We broke the all-time high twice, yet price wasn't able to rally past it. So altcoins tried to get going, but didn't really, and the money didn't trickle down towards the lower risk too much. We got a lot of meme coins, but not a lot of tech coins and utility coins gaining the benefits. So what we want to see happen next cycle is for the altcoins to actually crack above 1 trillion and start moving on up to these higher market cap coins. And that is likely to happen, especially if structure remains pretty positive, which would mean we want to hold above this $500 billion level. And you guys can see we have a lot of space to bottom out here still. I'm not sure if we're going to go towards this side. Right now, it is pointing that we are heading towards the downside. As you guys can see, the moving averages are pointing towards the downside, and support is breaking here. So I can see us move towards the downside. However, the other two charts don't show that. We're going to actually break down here. If we find support, we might be able to rally and put in some space towards the upside, and then come towards the end of the year, actually move on down. So that would look a little bit more of a quick move towards the upside. There you go. And then we come down, and this might be a range in which we bottom at and create some kind of accumulation there before we start trying to tackle breaking that all-time high, which would be very positive to see for the altcoins. So there are a lot of moving pieces here and a lot happening, but there are a couple more charts I want to show you. And the other one is Bitcoin dominance. And as you guys can see over here, Bitcoin dominance is beginning to lose ground. It's been trying to break to the upside. It got rejected here big time. I think that was on October 10 when we had the massive sell-off across all the altcoins, and that was a liquidation candle. Usually this signals that we're heading towards the downside because the sell pressure is on Bitcoin dominance, even though you can't really sell this directly, but it is a telegraphed candle saying down is the way. You can see here we also tried to break out but got rejected. So now what we have here is another range, and the range is if we break down below 58%, that would lead to alts actually holding. Even if Bitcoin was to break the bottom and head lower, alts would be able to stand their ground as money trickles into the altcoins rather than actually exiting. So that would allow them to hold relatively well against Bitcoin. What we don't want to see happen is actually head on up above 61%. That would be bearish for altcoins. I think this would be the lower probability scenario for altcoins. So those are the 3 charts you want to be watching when it comes to tracking the alts. You want to make sure that Bitcoin dominance is not going to be breaking above 61%. And then on USDT over here, you want to make sure that we don't really hold above 10% and start moving on up. A lot of the signs here are pointing towards the end is near, but it's not here just yet. And that means the end of the bear market is getting closer and closer, but we're not just quite there yet. We need a couple more months, and the signs will be evident. Once we begin to break this, we'll start heading down. And you guys can see this bottom here. We bottomed out on 13th of March. That was the first touch. Second touch was 13th of January in 2025. I should say this was the third touch. This was the second touch, and we bottomed out here at 11th, and that was the start of when the bear market really began, and prices began to decline heavily and opportunities began to decrease. So just as on the bottom here, we had multiple touches, I wouldn't be surprised to see multiple touches up here as well, as we saw as well on this side. So you can see the patterns are repeating, and because this is a range, you can expect the same thing to happen here. Multiple touches, a couple of months, and then come the end of the year, we see that drop towards 3% again as we continue this range that USDT has been doing for the past 4 years now. So this game is all about finding the puzzle pieces and putting them together to get a better picture of what's going on from a higher perspective. And that takes us to our last coin here that I want to take a look at is Ethereum. So Ethereum is actually holding pretty well considering what Bitcoin has been doing. And you can see Ethereum has been holding this level right here for many years as well. That $1,400 level. We don't really want to see us lose that point. We lost it back here on the bottoming process of 2022, but that's fine. That was a deep bear market, and we had a lot of institutions blowing up and over leveraged entities blowing up. We don't have a similar setup right now, and relatively Ethereum is holding really well. So I could see us heading down to 1400, potentially down to about 1350, call it the lowest, maybe put in a little candle towards the downside. But for the most part, Ethereum has been in a range. And when you're accumulating like this for many years, you simply see expansion towards the upside. And I think the best chart I can compare this to is gold, because I came across gold and I saw the chart. It reminded me of Ethereum. And where exactly? It would have to be that part right there. You can see this accumulation period. It doesn't look like much, but this is a 3-day chart. So I want you to see this, right? You can look at that and see that this was trading sideways for 1,300 days, which comes out to be around 3 years and a little bit, kind of similar to what Ethereum was doing. Although the chart doesn't look identical, the behavior is the same, which is to say it's moving sideways in an accumulation pattern, similarly to how Ethereum is moving sideways. And you look at Ethereum and you say, wow, that looks very similar. Maybe not the same shape, but the same pattern. So then you also take the other piece of the puzzle, which is to say the bottom should be occurring somewhere between September and the end of the year, which brings us right there. And you can see the window of opportunity is extremely close. This is the window of opportunity right here. So we might come down a little bit lower. And I would say a high value area is anywhere between 1,500 and 1,300. You don't have to be perfect with this. You simply have to find the highest probability area to reverse, and you do that with a combination of price and time. And price tells us there's a lot of support at 1350, and time tells us that the highest likelihood of a reversal will occur somewhere in this window of opportunity. So that's my analysis of what to expect going forward. I think we're getting closer. We're not quite there yet. You can still see very clearly the trend is towards the downside. We have not broken this trend whatsoever. The moving averages are towards the downside. So we have a lot of pressure to break towards the upside. We would want to see something happen like that and then move towards the upside and find some strength and some movement towards the upside. So we have a lot of pieces of the puzzle coming together, showing us that the end is near. It's not here just yet, but it's almost here, and we should be paying attention and not giving up at this point because you're so close to the next cycle. So if you're watching this and you've stuck around this far, make sure, stay engaged, look for opportunities because they are coming, and the best opportunities exist in the conditions that we're seeing today. Now, if you guys want to join me on this journey of the next cycle and catch all the opportunities, I'm going to be opening up a Telegram group soon when it is ready. Currently, it's under construction. If you guys want to prepare for it, make sure to click on the PDF down below in the description to get prepared on how to join me on this journey. There will be a link to the Telegram in the PDF at the last page, as well as other valuable information with the framework I'll be using to find 10x opportunities all the way to 100x opportunities. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure to click on the link down below. It's completely free, and make sure to stick around because we are near the end of the bear market. Just a couple more months to go. Now, with that said, I'll see you guys on the next video, and let's get ready to seize the opportunities that are coming.